Hey Reddit. Throwaway account for obvious reasons. I'm not even sure where to begin, but I can't keep this all bottled up anymore. Maybe writing it down will help me make sense of everything. Maybe it'll just confirm that I've been a fool for way too long. I've been married to my wife, Anna, for 6 years. No kids by choice. We both agreed we wanted time to focus on our careers and each other. At least, that's what I thought. I'm a software developer, mostly remote work, quiet life. Anna's in advertising, art direction, branding, big events with expensive clients who always want something edgy. She's talented, ambitious, a little emotionally distant at times, but I chalked it up to stress. Her job always seemed like a high-speed roller coaster, and I admired how she handled it. About a year ago, she started traveling more. Quick turnarounds: San Diego, Aspen, Seattle. Nothing suspicious at first. She told me she joined a private aviation club through a client recommendation. It's faster, more reliable, she said. Plus, I can take my camera gear without TSA harassing me. Made sense. She started bringing back amazing photos from remote mountain retreats, vineyards, rooftop ad campaigns. I was proud of her. But little things started feeling off. She became strangely giddy before flights. Not nervous, not tired, excited, like she was going to Disneyland, not a 3-day corporate shoot. She stopped FaceTiming me when she traveled. Said the signal was weak, the Wi-Fi was unreliable up there. Her texts grew shorter, colder. One night, she came home late from a 2-day trip to Napa. I met her at the door. She was glowing. Literally glowing, cheeks flushed, hair tousled like she'd stepped off a movie set. She hugged me tight like she hadn't seen me in weeks and whispered I needed that escape. I smiled. I told her I missed her. She kissed me, and for a split second I swore I caught the scent of cologne. Not mine. I didn't say anything. Not then. I told myself I was imagining things. That I was being paranoid. But since then I've been watching. Quietly. Carefully. And what I'm starting to uncover is making my stomach twist in ways I didn't know were possible. This is just the beginning. I'll post more tomorrow. The first time I saw him, it wasn't supposed to happen. Anna was heading out to Santa Fe. Another quick trip for one of her high-concept minimalist shoots, as she called it. That morning, she looked different. Black dress, sharp boots, oversized sunglasses. Confident. Energized. Like she was walking into something thrilling, not work. She kissed me goodbye, tossed a casual "don't wait up," and rolled her suitcase out the door. A few minutes later, I noticed her iPad on the kitchen counter, the one she never leaves without. Mood boards, client briefs, entire campaigns live on that thing. I grabbed it and ran outside, thinking I'd catch her before she left. That's when I saw him. Not in a car. Not by an airport terminal. He was leaning against a small silver Cessna on the far side of the airstrip. Flight suit half undone, sunglasses reflecting the sky, headset draped around his neck like he belonged in some luxury travel ad. She walked right up to him. Smiling. At ease. Then she touched his arm. Just a second. Just enough. He leaned in and said something. She laughed. And not the kind of laugh she gives to clients or to me when she's tired. This was something else, real. Alive. I stopped behind a hangar wall, still holding her iPad, watching something I shouldn't have seen but couldn't look away from. That moment didn't just raise suspicions. It rearranged everything. That night, she got home late and tired. I asked about the flight. She smiled faintly. Smooth. A little turbulence on landing. Turbulence. That's what she called it. Then she disappeared into the shower for nearly an hour. I sat in silence. Her phone on the nightstand. Locked. Untouched. That's when I started going back through her posts. Her calendar. Timestamps. Locations. Weather data. And that's when I found the first cracks. You don't need hard evidence when your gut already knows. But I couldn't help myself. That night after she fell asleep calm, curled up like everything was normal, I stayed awake in the dark, my laptop open, scrolling through her recent posts. Her photography account. Her personal page. Even a few tagged by her clients. At first, nothing stood out. Just the usual, sweeping landscapes, minimalist architecture, close-up shots of hands holding expensive products. But then I noticed something small. A photo from her Santa Fe trip. Warm lighting. Desert tones. A shadow of a wing cast across a private hangar door. It looked real. Felt real. Except the weather in Santa Fe that day was stormy, high winds and rain, according to the archived local reports. And the hangar in her photo? It wasn't from Santa Fe Regional. I looked up their layout, hangar numbers, everything. It didn't match. That photo wasn't taken in Santa Fe. She lied. I started looking further back, cross-checking every shoot she'd claimed to do. Oregon, Colorado, Napa. The locations jumped around too fast. Some overlapped in ways that made no logistical sense unless she had a private jet and a time machine. And that's when a pattern started to form. The same plane in the background, blurred, just barely visible in the corner of a few shots. Silver body, red stripe, tail number almost legible. Same aircraft, different cities. Same man flying her there. She never mentioned the same pilot twice. Not once. Always said the club assigned whoever was available. But I was starting to realize this wasn't business. This was deliberate. This was a double life, and I'd only just caught the edge of it. Still, I couldn't confront her. Not yet. Because deep down I knew, if I opened that door, I had to be ready to walk through it. And at that point, I still wasn't sure if I could. The lies didn't stop. They just got smoother. Anna came back from her trip glowing. Like always. She dropped her bags by the stairs, kicked off her boots, and stretched like someone who'd just come back from a weekend spa. Not a work trip. I asked her how the shoot went. She smiled. Dusty. Dry. Beautiful, though. The light out there is unreal. Then she added, almost like it was scripted, sorry I couldn't FaceTime. Wi-Fi was basically non-existent. She said it so casually, as if the excuse had been practiced, rehearsed. I nodded. I didn't press. I just watched. That evening, she poured herself a glass of wine and scrolled through photos on her camera. She sat across from me on the couch, feet tucked under her, the picture of calm. But I noticed something new in the way she avoided eye contact. Like she didn't want to give me the chance to read her face too closely. I waited until she was asleep that night to check her gear. I told myself I wasn't invading her privacy, that I was already outside the fence and just walking along the perimeter. That's what I had to believe. Her camera had dozens of new shots from the trip. Landscapes, product placements, portraits. But there were a few test shots moments between setups. And that's where I found him. Blurred. Unfocused. In the background. But unmistakable. The same man I saw near the hangar. In one photo, he was walking just a few steps behind her, talking, his hand gesturing mid-sentence like he knew her well. In another, she was laughing off-center in the frame, like he'd just said something funny and she happened to catch it on camera. They weren't professional moments. They were private. It made my stomach twist. Not with rage, not yet. But with something worse, realization. She was falling for him. Or maybe she already had. And the worst part? She was letting it happen. No hesitation. No guilt. Like she had rewritten the story of us. And just forgot to tell me I was no longer in it. I started keeping track. Flight dates. Destinations. The duration of her trips. How long the showers lasted when she got home. How distant her hugs felt afterward. It wasn't obsession. At least that's what I told myself. It was survival. A way to hold on to something solid while everything around me felt like it was quietly crumbling. Every time she left, she came back a little more detached. Like a part of her stayed up there in the sky, circling somewhere I couldn't reach. I watched her sleep at night, wondering if she was dreaming of him, of escape, of something that didn't include me anymore. One night, she came home late from a trip to Colorado. She claimed the flight had been delayed. She looked tired, makeup smudged, hair tied messily back, but she still smiled. She always smiled, like she thought if she looked calm enough I wouldn't ask questions. I didn't, not yet, but while she showered, I checked the kitchen trash. Something I never would have done before all this started. And there it was, a crumpled receipt from a boutique hotel. 2 guests, 1 room, not booked under her name, but his. I memorized it, G. Wyatt. I didn't confront her, not even then. I went back to the couch, pretended to be tired, pretended not to feel the weight of that receipt burning in my pocket. She came out of the bathroom wrapped in a towel, her skin flushed from the heat. She leaned down, kissed my forehead, and said, "Missed you." I think that was the first time I realized how far she'd drifted. She wasn't mine anymore. Not really. Not in the way that mattered. And the scariest part? She didn't even seem to notice. I finally looked him up. G. Wyatt. That's all I had. A name from a hotel receipt, barely legible beneath the crease. But it was enough. A few quick searches, a couple of aviation directories, and there he was. Graham Wyatt, private pilot, former military, now running charter flights for an exclusive aviation club just outside the city. There were articles, client reviews, even photos. And in every photo, the same smug, effortless confidence, the kind you don't learn, the kind that just exists. He was older than I expected. Maybe 40. Clean-cut, but rough around the edges. That dangerous kind of charm. The kind that makes women feel seen and men feel invisible. I sat in the dark, staring at his profile for hours. Not out of jealousy, at least not just jealousy, but out of fascination. This was the man she was giving everything to. Not a celebrity. Not a client. Not someone with a six-figure watch or a penthouse. Just a guy who flies planes and knows exactly when to say the right thing at 10,000 feet. I imagined the two of them in that cramped cockpit, isolated from the world. The intimacy of it. The closeness. Her laughter at his jokes. The way he probably looked at her like she was the only person in the sky. And me? Back home. Refreshing her location. Pretending not to care. The next morning, I watched her get ready for another trip. She was humming to herself, something upbeat and soft. She only did that when she was excited. Where to this time? I asked casual. She paused for half a second. Then smiled. Palm Springs. Should be a quick turnaround. One night only. I nodded. You taking the same pilot again? She didn't miss a beat. Oh, no idea. They rotate us around. Lie. Clean. Sharp. Well practiced. I kissed her goodbye that morning knowing she was walking straight into his arms. And she had no idea I was already watching the pieces fall. She was gone. Again. Palm Springs, she said. But this time I didn't stay home. I took the day off work. Told no one. Packed a bag. Booked a hotel 20 minutes from the airstrip where the aviation club operated. I wasn't even sure what I was planning. I just knew I couldn't keep sitting in the dark waiting for Liz to come home smelling like lavender shampoo and jet fuel. That evening, I parked across the road from the hangar, hidden behind the tinted windows of a rental car. My heart pounded like I was doing something illegal, and maybe I was, in a way. Not by law, but by whatever invisible rules still held this wreck of a marriage together. A little after 6 p.m. I saw the plane. Same one. Silver Cessna. Red stripe. Same tail number. It landed smoothly. Touched down like it had done this 100 times before. And I watched as the door opened and she stepped out. Anna. She wasn't in work mode. Not the version of her that shoots ad campaigns and pitches clients. She was laughing. She reached back into the cabin and took his hand as he climbed out after her. Graham Wyatt. Even from a distance, I could feel the ease between them. Like they were returning from vacation, not a flight. They didn't touch beyond that. No kiss. No overt gesture. They didn't need to. The silence between them said enough. She walked beside him toward the small building at the edge of the hangar. Not toward a car. Not toward baggage. Toward the private lounge. One I knew from their website had showers, wine, and a lounge for resting between charters. I sat there in the car, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. I didn't follow. Not yet. Instead, I pulled out my phone and took photos. The plane. Her stepping out. Him helping her down. The two of them disappearing behind that door. Evidence. I didn't know what I was going to do with it yet. But for the first time in weeks, I felt something close to control. She had no idea I was that close. And for the first time, I wasn't asking questions. I was collecting answers. She came home the next morning. Smiling. Relaxed. Not a single crease in her story. Said the shoot went well. Clients were obsessed with the desert palette. Claimed she barely slept, blamed the heat, the schedule, the usual excuses. She even brought back a little bag of gourmet coffee beans. A souvenir, she called it. A souvenir for the man she thought she was fooling. I played my part. Nodded. Smiled. Said I missed her. I didn't ask about the flight. I didn't ask if she had time to rest between landing and takeoff. I didn't mention the photos on my phone, not yet. But something shifted in me that morning. I realized I wasn't holding on to her anymore. I was holding on to the shape of her, the echo of what we used to be. And every time she walked out that door, she took a little more of herself with her. I just wasn't ready to admit how empty the house had already become. Later that week, I decided to test her. I asked her what the pilot's name was. Just casually, like someone making conversation. She paused for half a second. That's all it took. Then, no clue. I think it was Brian? Or maybe Kevin. They rotate so often, it's hard to keep track. Brian. Kevin. not Graham. And that lie was the last little confirmation I needed. I didn't react. I didn't flinch. I simply said, "Ah, cool," and let it slide past like nothing mattered. But that night, when she was asleep beside me, I emailed myself the photos. I saved every screen grab, every discrepancy, every digital breadcrumb, because I knew the day was coming when I'd need it all. And when it did, I wouldn't be the one caught off guard. The next trip came sooner than expected. This time, it wasn't a desert or a vineyard. It was a creative branding retreat in Montana, 3 days at a private lodge. All expenses paid by some luxury outdoor brand looking to reimagine their image. She was excited. Too excited. She showed me the brochure like it was a honeymoon getaway. Gushed about the landscape, the lighting, how raw and untouched it all felt. Her voice trembled when she talked about it. Not with nerves, but with anticipation. I asked, "Will it be the same pilot?" She didn't even hesitate this time. "No idea. Probably not. Haven't flown with the same guy in weeks." Another clean lie. She was getting better at them. Too good. When the morning of the flight came, I helped her pack, zipped her bag, handed her the camera, kissed her cheek and said, "Be safe." She smiled and said, "Always." Then she was gone. But I wasn't. I already had the lodge's name, the brand's press release, the location of the retreat. I booked a room in a cheap motel 20 minutes from the site, waited a day, then drove up to the edge of the retreat grounds in the late afternoon. There were no fences, just trees, gravel, and quiet wealth tucked into the hills. From a ridge above the main lodge, I saw everything. Anna was out on the deck, camera around her neck, drink in hand, and beside her, Graham. No flight suit this time, just a dark button-down, sleeves rolled up, glass of wine in his hand like he belonged there. She leaned into him, not obviously, not dramatically, but with a comfort that said everything. They weren't hiding. They were just living in a world where I didn't exist. I watched them laugh, toast to something. Her hand brushed his arm. His hand rested on the small of her back. And right there on that ridge it hit me. She wasn't cheating. She had already left me. Quietly, completely, emotionally. The affair wasn't a secret. It was just a chapter she hadn't bothered to close. And now I had to decide whether to keep pretending I didn't see the ending, or finally admit it was already written. I stayed until sunset, watched them move from the deck to the lodge, laughing under the amber glow of string lights. He opened the door for her. She didn't look back. Not once. When it got dark, I drove back to the motel in silence. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't break anything. I just sat there in the room, lights off, listening to the hum of the air conditioner and the dull throb in my chest. Not anger. Not heartbreak. Something colder. Resignation. The next morning I checked out early. I didn't need to see more. I already knew the ending. I just hadn't spoken it out loud yet. Back home, she returned 2 days later. Kissed me at the door like nothing had changed. Told me the mountains were incredible. Said the team was amazing. Swore the retreat gave her space to think. I nodded. Asked if she took any good shots. She grinned. Some of my best yet. And just like that, we were sitting on opposite sides of the same lie again. That night, as she slept beside me, I opened my laptop. I found a lawyer. I didn't schedule anything. Not yet. I just needed to see the steps. Needed to know there was a way out if I had the nerve to take it. But that nerve was building. Because what I saw in Montana, it wasn't just cheating. It was something deeper. She wasn't caught between two men. She had already chosen. She just didn't think I'd ever be strong enough to walk away. The breaking point came faster than I expected. 3 days after she returned from Montana, she had another shoot scheduled. This time local, just an hour's drive away. No flights, no hangars. Just a stylized photo session in a botanical garden for a wellness brand. At least that's what she told me. But that morning, I noticed something different. She wore lipstick. Not unusual, but a bold shade I hadn't seen in months. The same deep red she used to wear when we first started dating. Her perfume was heavier too, unmistakable. The same one I'd caught faintly on her scarf the night she came back from Napa. She didn't take her usual camera bag. No lighting gear. Just a small tote and her phone. I asked if she needed help loading anything into the car. She hesitated, then shook her head. Nope, they've got everything set up. I just have to show up. Another lie. And this time, I didn't let it pass. I followed her. I waited 10 minutes after she left, then got in my car and tracked her route. I already had her location history synced, something I activated quietly weeks ago when I couldn't take the guessing anymore. She wasn't going to the gardens. She was heading back to the airstrip. By the time I arrived, I parked behind the line of delivery trucks and catering vans. Kept low. Stayed quiet. And that's when it happened. I saw her, standing at the foot of the plane, talking to him. He looked different this time. Relaxed. Like she belonged to him and the world had accepted it. She reached up and kissed him. Not quick. Not hidden. Not guilty. She kissed him like she'd done it 100 times before. And he kissed her back like she wasn't someone else's wife. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I just watched. That was the moment everything collapsed. Not because I saw it, I already knew. But because she didn't care anymore. There was no pretending. No excuses. No turbulence left to blame. It was just the truth. Raw. Open. Unavoidable. And it was mine now whether I wanted it or not. I left before they boarded. Didn't need to see where they were going. Didn't care. I drove home with the windows down, music off, my mind loud. Every mile between that runway and our front door felt like I was moving backward through time, retracing the steps of a marriage that had slowly unraveled in silence. When I got home, her coffee cup was still on the counter. Half full. Lipstick on the rim, the same red I watched disappear into someone else's mouth just an hour earlier. I sat at the table and stared at it. Not because it meant anything, but because it was normal. The last remaining piece of a life we both had been pretending still existed. Later that evening, she texted. Long day. Staying overnight. Don't wait up. That was it. No explanation. No curiosity about me. No attempt to cover her tracks. Just a yellow heart at the end of a sentence full of lies. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened the folder I'd been building for weeks. Photos. Messages. Screenshots. Flight logs. The receipt. The tail number. The kiss. I transferred everything to a USB drive. The next morning, I made an appointment with the divorce attorney I'd found. Simple terms. No kids. No shared business. One joint bank account. And a betrayal I had no intention of forgiving. I didn't tell her yet. Not because I was unsure, but because I wanted to look her in the eye one last time before I let go. She needed to see it. To know I knew. And to understand that I wasn't going to be the quiet, loyal man waiting at home anymore. I wasn't hers. Not now. Not ever again. She came home the next evening. Waltzed through the door like nothing had happened. Sunglasses still on, hair pulled back in that effortless way she always thought looked editorial. She smiled and said, "You won't believe how perfect the light was." I nodded. Try me. She dropped her bag near the stairs, kissed my cheek, and started talking about some imaginary spa they stumbled into after the shoot. Every word was curated, not too much detail, just enough to sound real. She didn't know I had already deleted the GPS log from her phone myself. There had been no spa. No shoot. Just him. I let her talk. I let her lie. I let her believe for those few final hours that she still had the upper hand. After dinner, she went upstairs to shower. I waited in the kitchen, staring at that USB drive sitting next to my coffee mug. The smallest object in the room and the heaviest. When she came back down in her robe, I asked her to sit. She hesitated, a flicker of something real, finally, but she sat. I looked her in the eyes and said it flatly. I know about Graham Wyatt. I know everything. She didn't speak. Just stared at me. Frozen. Exposed. So I kept going. I saw you with him. I followed you. I have the photos. The dates. The lies. I know. For a few seconds, she didn't move. Didn't blink. And then the mask cracked. Her voice shot up like a reflex. How do you spy on me? That's insane. That's controlling. You're the reason I needed space in the first place. It was like watching a machine power up rage, deflection, projection. A full meltdown like I was the one who betrayed her. But I didn't flinch. I waited until she was done screaming. Then I slid the USB drive across the table. This isn't about spying. It's about truth. Something you stopped giving me a long time ago. She stared at the drive like it might explode. I'm filing for divorce. And with those words, everything inside her shifted. The fury didn't disappear. But the control did. Because now she knew. The story was no longer hers to manipulate. She didn't cry. That's what I noticed first. No shock. No sorrow. No desperate apology begging to salvage what we had. Just silence. Then something colder. I guess you were never as clueless as you looked, she said quietly. It wasn't an admission. It was a sneer, the last shot of a person who knew the war was lost but still needed to twist the knife on her way out. I didn't respond. I just stood, walked to the counter, picked up the envelope the lawyer had prepared, and placed it in front of her. Inside, the divorce papers. Clean. Direct. Everything documented. Nothing left to interpret. She looked down at the envelope like it was a trick. A bluff. But I had never been more certain in my life. You don't have to sign it now, I said. But you will. She crossed her arms. So that's it? You're just done. No, I answered. You were done. You've been done for months. I just finally caught up. She stood slowly, chin lifted like she was performing for someone. But the act was wearing thin. You know, she said, he gets me in a way you never did. I nodded once. Calm. Steady. And yet here you are. Still lying. Still pretending this wasn't a choice you made 1,000 times. She didn't reply. She didn't have to. She walked upstairs without another word and I let her go. No shouting. No begging. No dramatic finale. That night, I slept in the guest room. Not because I had to, but because I had already left her even if the paperwork wasn't signed yet. And in that silence, no arguments, no apologies, no more pretending, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. The morning after was quiet. No slammed doors. No final arguments. Just the soft sound of her footsteps as she left, suitcase in hand, sunglasses on, as if she were heading to another shoot. Another lie. Another escape. But this time I didn't follow. I stood at the window and watched her car disappear down the street, knowing she wasn't coming back. And for once, I didn't feel hollow. I didn't feel angry. I felt free. Later that week, she signed the divorce papers without a word. No note. No fight. Just her signature in ink, cold, clean, detached. Fitting. Mutual friends reached out. Some of them already knew. Some were shocked. Most weren't. One of them even told me she'd been seen with him, Graham, at a lakeside event, holding hands like they'd been together for years. No shame. No secrets. Let them have each other. They built whatever they have on a foundation of lies and stolen moments. And maybe for a while, that kind of thrill is enough. But it always rots underneath. As for me, I've been rebuilding slowly, honestly. There's still hurt, yes. Still memories I can't quite shake. But I've learned something. Sometimes the quietest betrayals are the most devastating. Not the shouting matches. Not the caught-in-the-act dramas. But the slow withdrawal. The fading warmth. The smile that never quite reaches the eyes anymore. And when someone shows you they've left emotionally, spiritually, completely, the most powerful thing you can do is leave too. On your own terms. With your dignity intact. This is the last part of the story. But for me, it's just the beginning.